Welcome to Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode 004. This is Stephen Little, and I'm here with
Isaac Tauaefa,
Josh Straussberger, JP Dinnell.
We want to welcome each and every one of our viewers and listeners today. We're excited to be back with you. First and foremost, we want to thank our sponsor that made this episode possible, Total Fitness Kickboxing, right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Denton and the Colony, owned by our brother here, Josh Straussberger. Man, it's an incredible workout. Men and women, come in, get after it, find that community, the camaraderie, and that fun workout. Get your striking on, your cardio, and you know what else? Your total fitness.
Total Fitness.
Yep.
Imagine.
So we appreciate you guys over there at Total Fitness Kickboxing. Y'all give them some love out there, our community. And speaking of being right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, you know, there's something very interesting about living in Texas because we're one of two states that has a uniqueness to us. Now, listen, y'all know there's a lot of uniquenesses about Texas. And we could talk about this for a while, but I'm going to focus on one today, and it's one that's very applicable about our community here of jiu-jitsu practitioners. It's mutual combat.
Oh, yes. I love this.
Mutual combat
speaks to my soul.
Mutual combat is legal in the state of Texas. Yes. According to Penal Code 22.06, if two parties agree to a physical fight, then they're allowed to get handsy with no legal repercussions.
Incredible.
It's the way it should be. I mean, as long as it stays between those two people, and then once like that fight is like to a point where like, hey, the other guy is no longer a threat, cool. Then you stop. You recognize it.
So think about this.
I
here
totally
in Texas,
agree.
It's like if Josh and I get in a beef with each other over beef,
yeah.
right? We can just declare mutual combat, go out on the streets and throw down,
Yeah.
with no legal repercussions.
As long as these two don't jump in.
Well, wait, is there such thing as mutual combat between more than two? Could there be like a four-way mutual combat?
Maybe if you get verbal confirmation.
I would say,
are you down to throw down? Are you down to throw down?
Yeah.
Are you, like,
And then you literally declare mutual combat. The first time I heard this, it was a clip rolling around Instagram or whatever, and the guy said, I literally saw in Austin, Texas, two people go outside. They looked at a police officer, and they said, we've declared mutual combat. And he said, get it on, stay out of the street. And they brawled in front of the cop.
let's
Yeah,
go.
down in 6th Street, probably.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
of course.
Place. It's like from The Office when Michael Scott declares bankruptcy.
Yeah, I declare bankruptcy.
That's it. Yeah. I declare mutual combat. That's all you got to do. That's sick.
So my question is, why have none of us done this yet?
Well, because we're living, if you listen to the last episode, we're trying to live by the spirit
Yes.
before the flesh.
I will say, though, I think of the four of us, JP's been the closest at a wrestling tournament between dads of opposing teams saying, would you like to engage in mutual combat with me in the parking lot?
I wish I would have known that. I would have just said that at the match. Like, hey, no disrespect. We're good. Like, hey, I still, we're going to be respectful. But, because I've had some dads and coaches, like, want to fight me at wrestling matches. Yeah. And that would have been awesome. Like, are you declaring mutual combat?
I think you should have to take off a white glove and smack them across the face.
Bugs Bunny style.
Do you know if one of these dads, because you've described some of these dads, and I won't go into those descriptions, and other coaches, but can you imagine if one of these dudes got angry enough at a high school wrestling match that they actually declared mutual combat against JP?
You don't know me, bro. I see red. I just throw. Man. You just don't know. You don't know my level.
That's also a reference to a previous podcast talking about dudes that don't need to train because when they get mad, they see red.
Yeah.
Bro, I see red. I don't need to get on those jiu-jitsu mats and train.
I said it last time. When you see red, you will see black shortly after. I'm going to choke you unconscious.
Yeah. And we all know this also to be true. And then there's some memes about it on on social media, it's like those are also the guys that like cannot walk up a flight of stairs without being winded.
Yeah.
Like I'm not. I know I'm not like some physical specimen. You know, like I know I'm not like in amazing shape, but bro. A flight of stairs ain't putting me behind.
No.
Anything, like I'm good. Like I can still dig deep if I have to.
Yeah. Might get up 2 flights.
Oh, that's funny. Mutual combat.
That's good to know.
So this is an ADD thought, but it also brings me to straight into jiu-jitsu and the Russians and freaking Car-Jitsu.
Bro, they didn't invent that.
I know they
the
didn't.
SEAL teams did when we had our van wars. 3, 2, 1. I declare a van war, and then it's just
on,
just straight on. And the only rule is you don't touch the driver.
Yeah,
you cannot touch the driver because we'd literally be driving down the interstate.
Smart.
With a van fight.
And the concept of van fight because I've experienced some one-on-one. You know, I was driving and JP declared van fight on one of our buddies, Dane.
I think he declared it on me.
Actually, I think that's right. JP was telling us about it, and he declared one. And as I recall, I have a video. I'm driving down the road, and JP's in mount in the back seat. I think he has his neck wrapped up in the seatbelt, and he's open palm slapping like a good courteous friend his ribs, and you just hear on our buddy's ribs, right? And he's like, "Oh, I don't like van fights."
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. Dane, who we're talking about, tough because he started it and he took it like the whole. And this was pre-echelon front JP, so this is not a kind sober JP. This is JP who's been hammered, and now it's like, oh, cool. I hate my life because I'm out of the SEAL teams, and I have a buddy who wants to do a van war.
Right.
Let's see how tough you are, buddy.
Yeah. Dude, I feel bad. I was such a jerk to him that night. In a loving way.
Yeah, he took it like a champ.
Dude, Dane is such a good guy.
Such a good dude. But
I mean, when you ask for it.
I'm just saying, so bring this thing back in. So I'm sure most of y'all have seen this, but
and
some of you...
Dane was drinking also, though.
Correct.
It's not like you bullied him. He called for it.
It's true. That's probably why he called for it, though. Little
and afterwards, there. Remember, though, he was just laughing and smiling. Like, oh, yeah. Like, just... And that's the way it should be between friends. If you're gonna play fight or wrestle,
you were in a white dress shirt, and you did have some blood.
Not the first time, homie. But that kind of going back to that mutual combat. Like, okay, cool, we got some beef. Let's handle it and just be done.
Yep.
Like you go back to these cowards and these punks and these gangbangers. Don't get me started on gangbangers. Like, like my thoughts and views on them. Like, anyways. Because they're all punks. They're cowards. Yeah. You know, like I put gangbangers in the same category as terrorists. Like I'd have no problem hunting them down because they're all punks. They prey on the weak. Yeah. They're not men, you know, and you know, like you go back to like this mutual combat thing. It's like, hey man, like let's just handle this beef. Like, oh, you've got a problem with me? I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And if you're the better man, like we're done with that. It's like jiu-jitsu competition. Like we both want to win. Like I when I competed, like I didn't go in there going, man, I mean, it'd be cool if I won. No, I wanted to win. Like Isaac wanted to win. Everybody that goes and competes wants to win. But when you lose, it's like, you know what? You shake their hand and you're done. Yeah. You're done with it. That was one of the things that drove me crazy. I didn't get into it, but now it kind of opened the doors. Like when I was at the Dallas Open, watching grown men throw fits after they lost, like just dropping F-bombs, like blah, blah, like, you know, like throwing their belt around. I remember watching this guy. I started laughing. I was laughing at him because he looked like a 3-year-old who was throwing a tantrum, and he's a little bit older than me, bro. He's in his mid-40s, purple belt, lost because he made a stupid decision, and he's dropping F-bombs and throwing his belt around, and the refs looking at him like, dude, tie your belt and get out here.
Was his coach around?
Oh, his coach was just like looking at him like, bro, you look like an... I'm laughing. I cannot stop laughing at it. Not in a disrespectful manner, but I'm just like, bro, you've got to be kidding.
Oh, it's
like,
hilarious.
You look like a kid out there now.
I'm getting nervous.
And do you think you're representing your gym the right way?
Well, I was going to say, you're making me nervous because I can't imagine representing our gym or any of our professors that way. Like, you couldn't pay me to act that way.
No. With them watching you and you representing them.
Are you kidding
But
me?
you know what it was? It was his ego. Yeah. He made a mistake and he was embarrassed. And so to counter his embarrassment, he threw a temper. And I'm like, wow, that's sad that this dude is in his mid-40s and acting like a 3-year-old.
Hopefully he didn't have kids there watching him, saying like, oh, that's how I act when I lose.
There were kids
Yeah,
there.
modeling
Maybe
it
not
from
his
your dad.
kids,
Yeah.
but there were. And dude, if he's doing that there, what does he do at home?
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yep.
You know what I mean? When people act like jerks in public, what do you think they're doing at home?
So it could be a total one-off. Like it could be a one-off. Like that guy's just had a bad moment, or he's
Can
just
be.
like a
Could be.
an
Yes.
individual
I
that
agree.
handles and stuff like that. But what I was gonna say is like, I would wonder what the gym atmosphere is like, because I mean, at a lot of healthy gyms, I don't think they'd really tolerate that. You know?
Well, no, yeah, exactly. You're right. And to give his gym the benefit of the doubt, I also don't know how his professor handled it afterwards. Like his professor might have pulled him aside and was like, "Hey, we don't do that.
That's right.
Like, don't ever do that again." And his professor might have. I don't know. So to give them credit,
Yeah.
just in case. But I mean,
Well, you don't know any of that. The entire, as far as you know, that was just how he acted. That's the impression that was made on you. So that was the impact of that one moment.
it's a
So you
good
just gotta be
reminder for
aware.
all of us to
Yeah.
control our emotions.
Well, and not only it's like kind of what I was pointing to, like what it like. So we're sitting here. What is his gym atmosphere like? So when you have a bad moment, you're representing your family, your parents, your gym, your church, your God, which hopefully is Jesus, right? You're representing all these things, and it's like what we've been talking about in our group text. Like there's people watching, right? Like one of the things we were talking about in our group text is the way we treat us, like talking about the four of us, the way we treat our wives. We're training our children how they, if they're our daughters, how they should be treated. And we're training our sons how to treat their future, the women, right? And so it's like, it's a good reminder for everyone, man.
Yeah.
Like our people are watching. Whether you think you're a leader or not, people are watching, and you're leading someone.
Yeah.
And that's a maturity thing, I think. Ultimately, the way that you carry yourself, like you learn enough, and you say, "That's not how I should carry myself. That's not how. If I lose, I need to be gracious in defeat and in victory." You know.
That's right.
But I mean, I think that
So real
kind of goes
quick,
to your mindset.
Speaking of,
I'm thirsty, so y'all know what time
we know
it
what you're
is.
about to do.
So listen, for our viewers on YouTube, you see what's in my hand, right? For those of you that are just listening, I'm holding a Jocko Go sour apple sniper flavor. This is my personal favorite, not because it's named for my brother sitting over here, JP Dinnell.
Just a byproduct.
Sour apple sniper. So listen, this is a healthy energy drink, 95 megs of naturally sourced caffeine. It's pasteurized, so there's no preservatives. First energy drink to ever do that. Just want y'all to listen along here.
I got it on.
All right, now, Chris. I just
say
want
you got
y'all.
some on me?
I just want y'all to think about that crisp sour apple flavor. Listen, go get you some Jocko Fuel. The code JJJ10 saves you 10%. So JJJ10 saves you 10% on all your Jocko Fuel orders
At jockofuel.com.
at jockofuel.com. So go get in the game, get your protein, your Mulk in, get your creatine, all your vitamins, your greens, everything you need.
And then also, which is cool, because if they're listening to the podcast and they train jiu-jitsu, they probably need a gi. And if they go to Origin Maine, as in the state, MAINE, so originmaine.com, they can use that same code and get 10% off of almost all those products, right? I think it's only like 5% on the boots or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, get your pair of boots, some of the Delta jeans, you get yourself a gi, a rash guard, any of those. You're going to save 10% on that. And then that helps this podcast. Like we have our sponsors, and if you're thinking like, hey, I'd like to help out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, I'd like to sponsor a couple episodes, like reach out to us. That's something that you can do. It helps us like fund the podcast. And then also just by people ordering the products, like that helps us out, and it helps grow the ministry to where, just outside of just this podcast, the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu events that we do, helping us being able to do those, buying Bibles and giving Bibles to people that don't have a Bible or need a Bible, sending guys to Pursuit. Like it's so much bigger than just buying an energy drink or getting some protein powder or a pair of jeans or a gi. Like you are legitimately helping the ministry. And if that's something that God puts on your heart, like you can help donate and sponsor, but let's say you can't do that. That's cool. Like we totally, I get it.
If you
We
like,
all get
if
it.
you want to support, give us a share on Instagram,
Bro,
Facebook.
subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's huge. Leave a comment,
Yeah.
share. That's
And to that, you said, reach out if you want to sponsor or support in any kind of way. The best way currently to reach out to us is through our Instagram, through a direct message, which is Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. And when you get on there and you see our rash guards, please don't blow up the DM inbox. We will be selling rash guards soon.
Very soon.
T-shirts are out now. We kind of did a pre-order, and by the time you're listening to this, I'm sure they'll be out. So with that being said, I just want to go back to, so we took a whole tangent.
yeah.
By the way, one of the things you're talking about, Origin Maine and their gis, 100% made in America. What I love, man, this is the best marketing I've heard in a long time. Pete Roberts is like, hey, if you come out to our factory and you look at our gis, if you want to trace it back to its roots, you're going to follow a truck from Farmington, Maine, down to West Texas to a cotton field, and you're going to meet a cotton farmer, because it all starts with made in American cotton, and they weave the fabric there in Maine, like old school American manufacturing. So it's the best way not only to support our ministry, you will have the highest quality jiu-jitsu gi on the mat, period. And you will also be supporting American manufacturing, which is a dying thing that Origin is bringing back, and American products. And so it's a great way to pour into our economy as well and support American workers and American agriculture. And so we love Origin for those reasons. But I want to go back, we were talking about Russian Jiu-Jitsu, Car-Jitsu, right? And they're bringing, I'm sure most of y'all have seen this, but if you haven't, you need to get on YouTube and look at this, because they're bringing cars into convention centers and putting them on the mats, and then people start in the car, I think buckled.
Yeah.
And then the timer goes off and they're fighting in a car. And you can't imagine, the seat belts used for chokes, the getting in mount on someone and getting them smashed into the floorboard. You think you're claustrophobic on an open mat training, right? Dude, it's a completely different,
Head upside down in the floorboard.
I just wouldn't want to have to fight Josh in one of those. I'd be afraid he'd go back to his Memphis days and get a little gangster on me.
Yeah.
Like he was getting carjacked.
He's gonna be ripping your knees, your ankles. He's gonna, that leg game from Josh is gonna come out that he nicely hides from a lot of people, because Josh's ankle leg game used to be pretty gangster. Yeah.
Allegedly, no.
Yeah. Allegedly. Okay.
You've toe-holded me before, straight ankled me, so yeah, not allegedly.
Josh has shown extreme discipline when we roll, because we have some battles, and we definitely let the egos get involved when Josh and I roll. But here's the deal. It's free game. We know Josh and I are going to roll with a little ego with each other, but then when we shake hands after a round, it's 100% gone.
That is true.
It's nice to have training partners like that, by the way.
Well, that's humility, and one of the things I was thinking about when we were talking about Car-Jitsu, and we went down the SEAL team van fights, and we were talking about Dane and him calling it out, but also his humility afterwards. And then we talked about how people were acting in the Dallas Open. One of Isaac's good buddies, who I've become a friend with through social media and meeting each other at different events, you already know who I'm talking about. This kid is incredible. Stefan Banta, right? Did I say his last name correct?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, his jiu-jitsu is incredible.
Unreal.
And you know what's sad? I was at the Dallas Open. The only time he's never won a decision, where it goes to the refs. And his coach, Joao Rocha, who's from Brazil, was like, it's because he's an American. I'm
it is.
Well, you can say that. I can't. But it's, and that's a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're probably listening to this podcast because I think they're all believers. And I've talked to Joao about God and Jesus a lot. And, Stephan and I were messaging, and we were talking at the Dallas Open, and it was crazy to watch. And it was crazy is when other high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners are like, oh, Stephan's competing, boom, we're going to go over to this mat. And then he loses a decision, and you all see them looking at each other how did he lose that decision? And I'm sitting there going, I don't know enough to have any idea, but I think he won that one. But you know what was cool is you talk about humility. Is his coach Joao? Guess what his coach did? Nothing. Didn't say anything. Didn't yell at the refs. And you know what Stefan did? Nodded his head. Yeah. Didn't like throw a fit. Where he legitimately should have won, lost a ref's decision, and has humility. And controls his temper and his ego like a true professional. Yep. He is a true warrior. He's a true professional. Yep. And you guys know I don't throw that warrior term out often. I think it's thrown out too often when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And he's like, no, you're not a warrior. You're like, okay. I think when it comes to his jiu-jitsu and his heart is a warrior.
I agree.
You know, and just when you watch how he acts, and you know, him and I were talking afterwards, and he was frustrated, and I sent him a video message. I'm like, hey, here's one thing that you know to be true. You have to become undeniable. Oh. You cannot ever allow it to become a decision because you know what's going to happen. Next day, wins all of his matches on no and he goes undeniable.
Let's go. Dude. Yeah. By the way, you can't talk about Stefan and Joao without talking about Joao's little brother Pedro. Because Pedro Rocha, you know, we have a lot of training with him in the past. Such a good dude. That dude loves Jesus. And by the way, talking about, I would classify Pedro as a warrior in jiu-jitsu.
And Joao, all those guys. Yeah.
Pedro goes hard, dude. And by the way, I'm going to claim best guillotine in the sport.
Oh, yeah.
Pedro is known
That's
for that.
Factual.
Best guillotine in the sport. And he won gold or double gold. I can't remember.
Double gold.
Double gold.
No.
Just gold.
He didn't do gi.
Okay. So he won gold, no gi. With guillotine, at least one of his matches I saw, he had a beautiful guillotine. He's so good. Such a good dude that loves Jesus as well. Awesome jiu-jitsu. He like really brings that wrestling, like he's a heavy. I feel like he's got a heavy wrestling influence on his jiu-jitsu.
Well, because he was like
Brazilian national.
Yeah, Brazilian national
champ, wrestling champ.
Yeah. Went to the
Brazilian
Olympics.
Yeah.
Brazilian Olympic wrestler.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Which Aiden has a. He gave because Aiden was doing some wrestling privates with him.
I remember that.
Which was incredible. And I would be doing jiu-jitsu with Rodrigo, and Aiden would be doing wrestling with Pedro. And I was like, this is amazing, right? Just an amazing combo.
That's another warrior on the mat, by the way.
Rodrigo? Yeah, 100%. And
he's all right.
Oh, he's gonna kill you.
Love you, baby.
I mean, I just wonder why Rodrigo cannot still take me down. It's so weird. Anyway,
so
we'll talk about that
weird.
another time.
By the way,
I like to put hits on myself. I do put one.
Same.
No one has more passion in competition or coaching than Rodrigo.
Yeah. His passion for coaching, insane.
I love the best thing ever are the photos of him yelling at his yelling for and at in a positive way. His athletes, dude,
dude, his wife Monique is the same way.
Yeah.
Like their passion as a couple for jiu-jitsu and coaching and teaching is incredible. They both love the Lord as well, which is cool. They come to our church milestone when they can make it work with their schedule, and it's just really cool.
I think you were starting to say about Pedro gave something to Aiden.
He gave Aiden it's like a little zip up long sleeve warm up that he wore in the Olympics.
Wow. That's incredible.
What a gift.
Oh, wow. Dude, I was like...
Does Aiden even realize?
He does.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, he'll wear it sometimes. Like, it's so funny. Like, you guys already know my son Aiden. Just his sense of humor and character.
Yeah. Like, bro wore a full-blown suit and tie on like the first day of school.
Yes.
I love it.
Just like... Hey, I'm going to make a strong first impression.
Yeah.
My man.
Like, okay. Absolutely. Like, dude, it was incredible. And, dude, he'll put that on. He'll just strut around the house. Like, I remember he put it on. He's like, JP. And I'm like looking around. He's like, JP. And I look, and he was standing at the top of the stairs like this. Like head
with
nod.
The head nod.
Flex out
and he like comes down. I'm like, what's up? You want something? He's like, no, I'm just showing you what I'm wearing.
Well, he's working up the courage to get the smoke because I know he's been trying to.
Try. He wanted some until you asked him if he wanted some.
Well, he got it the other night.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
I was putting Amanda and I were like putting the girls to bed, and he just started at me in the room. So I was like, cool. Mutual combat engaged.
Yeah.
And Amanda's like, can you guys get out of the? You're gonna break your daughter's bed. And I'm like, you're gonna break your daughter's bed to Amanda. And I thought she was about to
get tag team.
She's about to double A.
That's not mutual combat. That's Amanda whipping JP.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we leave. We have mats at our house, and so we go out to the mats. And dude, he's out there, and I'm like taking off my bracelet and my watch, and take my knife out of my pocket, my pen out of my pocket, and Aiden's like sitting there, and he like takes his shirt off and throws it down on the mat. He's like looking at me, like tries to flex. I was like. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't want him thinking I was laughing at him.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just comical.
Right.
But I didn't want him to think I was laughing at him because he was being serious. I was like, oh,
We're going.
come on.
Well, bro, he just turned 17.
Yeah, it was on his 17th birthday.
Yeah, dude, you gotta test your old man's mettle.
And he goes and he gets in his wrestling mat, in his wrestling stance, and like he like taps the mat and like he's all ready, and I just walk up to him, grab the back of his head, and slam him down to the mat, like just all the way down the mat. Take his back. He tries to sit out, and bro, I was impressed. His sit out, he hit it hard. I was like, oh, if I wasn't 225-ish, like you probably would have hit that sit out good. But I just grab him and just suck him back to the mat, and I just was on him for 5 minutes straight, just crushing his soul. Like got him out, got it like looped in there, and was just like pressure. Put him in the JP gift wrap, and like I mean, Amanda was sitting there like videoing and taking pictures.
Why did I not get this video?
It's a 5-minute video of Aiden just.
Why did I not get this video?
I'll find it. It's Amanda has it, but anyways, it was awesome. Dude, like I was so proud. Like out like 5 minutes straight, and when we get done, he's like. You had a lot more endurance than I thought you would.
Well, we're at dinner right. Tuesday night, and I look at him. I go, "So, how'd your little challenge go the other night?" No qualms about it. He was like, "Well, it didn't go too well."
Well, there was a little cash on the table, right?
Oh yeah, it still is.
So there's a cash prize when Aiden can take you down.
Yeah,
like we don't have to say the number, but
it's a sizable amount.
Like
especially to a 17.
It makes him hungry.
It's a sizable amount to adults.
Okay, so let's just say,
I know.
I'm not gonna go all the way there, but I'm just gonna say, is it more or less than $5,000?
It's more.
Okay, so Aiden,
He's hungry.
Aiden,
Straight cash.
Straight cash, homie.
Aiden, let's amp up the beef intake, the
You know, if
creatine
Pedro's
intake.
listening to this, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna reach out to Aiden. We're gonna start training on the side."
50-50.
Yeah. There's a good bit more than 5,000 there, Pedro. But Aiden, amp up your beef intake, amp up your creatine intake. Mm-hmm. But you have a nice gym garage.
He has until his 18th birthday.
Bro, Aiden, I love you, but just don't underestimate.
Your old man.
You have more endurance than I thought you would.
Yeah. Well, they would also assume that I just completely stop training, and then I forget how to do any wrestling defense.
Right.
I don't know, but 17, 18, like if that kid decides to like really ramp up his training, it would be a problem. Like he's 6'2", he's 182-ish pounds right now. Like it could be a problem.
Big feet.
Yeah. It could be a problem.
Still growing into those paws.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I'll tell you what, man. 5 minutes straight, he didn't stop fighting once.
Well, and again, it goes full circle to that ego thing, which obviously you shouldn't have an ego in that, but some 17-year-olds still would. When I asked him point blank, didn't go like I thought it would.
Dude, and here's the deal. We got done. He had a smile on his face.
Oh, yeah.
He gives me a hug. Dude, I know other kids out there that would literally have been throwing fits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But not 8. I mean,
he's a
good kid.
Guys that train, though, I mean, yes, you're going to find that, but I think people that train in general, like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, I mean, dude, we know how to take losses because we train, right? So with that, speaking about training, Josh, coming at you first. So how has your mindset around jiu-jitsu training changed from when you started jiu-jitsu back in the day to current?
So I've been training. I met JP through training. So it's sad. I've probably been training for 10 years with a couple of breaks in there.
Sandbagger.
No.
10-year purple belt.
No.
Sandbagger.
No. There was breaks, lots of breaks. No, so my mindset's changed a lot. I would say the first big change was, and I'm going to say this, so you got to temper this with each individual thing. I listened to another friend of ours has a podcast, the BJJ Executive, and Kramer was on there. Again, we've talked about him before, but he talks about how the mats are always there due to different circumstances in life. So I started jiu-jitsu when I was almost 31, I guess. So yeah, for 10 years. I'll be 40 this year as well. So I already had kids, 2 of my 3 kids. I was married. So when I started, I went all in. I was training 6 days a week, multiple times a day, competing at white and blue belt a lot. And I never want to say like I overtrained, but my priorities were not correct. So as young 30s, also I was
because you're getting 6, 7, 8, and 9 jiu-jitsu sessions a week.
Oh yeah, and these are 2-hour sessions, you know.
Plus you're doing other workouts like we talked about in the other episode. You're doing their total fitness kickboxing workouts.
Correct. And at that time I worked a normal job that was a 12-hour shift. So I was not, well, A, I wasn't sleeping, and B, I wasn't prioritizing things right. So it launched my jiu-jitsu fairly quick. I'm not saying I was great. I was average at best, but
you were really good back then.
But I was
for that level. I remember
emphasis on back.
No,
then.
I'm just saying for like as a white and a blue belt, like I would put him against any other whites and any other blue belts for sure. Like there's a group that he would train with, and those guys were like all the time training, and his jiu-jitsu was really good. Like
awesome.
It was.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
back in Memphis,
yeah. So that would be the first shift. Is as I matured through jiu-jitsu, I realized I had to find that balance. Part of it was because it was forced on me, because I got promoted to purple belt. I didn't want it. I remember when they called my name, I just sat there and I was like, no, I ain't going up there. And then they threatened to hurt me. So I accepted it. And I stopped training. I didn't quit when I was a purple belt, but that was right at the transition time where I was moving to Texas to open my gyms and stuff. So it kind of made me take a step back. And then as I got back into it, it shifted my priorities to like, it is a priority, but it also helps you to realize what other priorities, like it's easy to go, like I've trained twice this week. It's Thursday. I trained Monday. I trained Wednesday.
And we're going to train Friday.
So she's not.
I'm out of town Friday, but I'm going to get another training in.
Scrub.
Scrub move.
It is scrub move. But again, it's with those priorities. So what I've mainly learned is the most important thing is if you have your priorities at home straight, it's way easier to go train. Because if you're only worried, it kind of talks about what we've talked about before. If you're only worried about what you're doing, you're gonna have trouble at home. You're gonna have trouble at work. So you really have to find that balance. But if you prioritize, if it's important to you, you'll prioritize it.
And speaking of priorities, Josh, for any of y'all, so if you're listening, you can look at the photo right now on your phone or computer or whatever. Apple CarPlay, the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu logo, right? And if you're watching, you can see the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu logo. So we designed that thing for a couple ways because it related around priorities. So there's a line in that logo between Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu to emphasize that Jesus is over Jiu-Jitsu. And then the font of Jesus is larger than the font of the word Jiu-Jitsu. And that's because what we've noticed is a lot of people make Jiu-Jitsu their God.
Yeah.
And dude, jiu-jitsu is incredible. Like it's a stress relief. It's physical fitness. It gives us a community of dude, I'm closer with jiu-jitsu. Like we were talking about this, I think it was yesterday. I'm closer with jiu-jitsu guys than I am guys from my church, right? Because of the bond we share in training. I'm closer with jiu-jitsu guys than I am with almost anyone outside of my family, you know? And so when you look at that, right, it's jiu-jitsu gives us a lot of good things, but it's got to be prioritized, right, and we can't make jiu-jitsu our God, and so that's a big thing, and that just having to do with the logo. But I just thought that was a perfect time to interject that, Josh.
No, absolutely right. And long story short, like I'll close it out with that. That's the main thing, is finding the right priority and that balance. There's nothing wrong with training 6 days a week, 9-10 training sessions out of 7 days. if your other priorities are in order.
That's also why I love the aspect of like we go to a very family friendly gym, and so like our kids and wives will come hang out sometimes when we train, but also they train and we'll all hang out together, and so it allows that that was a big thing because I trained for a little bit with JP before I was at Double Five, and it was just me going, and so it was jiu-jitsu kind of like took away from my family. Now my wife liked me better when I was training because I come home a better person.
That's what me and JP talked about. I know we all have. Me and JP talked about that the other day a little in depth, but that's a huge point is if I have my priorities in order and I go train, I'm going to come home more
balanced,
the man that I need to be. And that's in all aspects of life.
That's
too,
right.
So
that's right. And so when I started training at Double Five, like Brody, my oldest son, was 4.5 at the time. He started training that same week. And so all of a sudden it became a family activity because it's such a family friendly gym with Formiga's wife and Rodrigo's wife and then all the other wives and some of them train, some of them just hang out, all the kids that are training together. Like now jiu-jitsu has become a family thing. And so it doesn't take away from our family, it actually adds to our family. Right. And so that's kind of a cool aspect. JP, what about you? How's your mindset around training?
I got one more thing to add. I'm going to tell on myself. So
let's go.
Part of that is, so I've been consistently training. I've had some breaks, but lately I have, but it's, 2 times a week, couple weeks, it's only one. And the thing of that is with your priorities is, if it's important to you, you'll make time. And one of the biggest things for me is, I'm sitting here telling you right now, it's still not the priority it should be because there's 2 classes a week at Double Five at 6:30 a.m. If I wanted to get 4 classes this week, there's nobody at my house awake at 6:30 a.m. There's no kickboxing classes at my gym. There's no emails that I need to respond to at 6:30 a.m. If I have the discipline and it's important to me, I could easily get up and get 2 classes a week on top of the other ones I get. So that's just my...
Professor Formiga, did you hear that?
Calling myself out. Kramer and Brown Belt Dave now, they're always inviting me to 6:30 a.m. I do go some.
Hey, Will Tate's been training there at 6:30 a.m., I think, consistently.
Yeah.
So that's just my last throwdown on myself. Yeah.
Our buddy Justin is in there in the mornings as well. He's a blue belt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so for me, man, mindset around jiu-jitsu changed. When I started, I was still in the SEAL teams. I was training at Jocko's gym. It was Throwdown Elite, and then it became Victory MMA. And, I guess go back to my roots of jiu-jitsu was my frogman brother, Cowie Mayerl, who's also been through a pursuit.
Such a good dude, man.
Which will be awesome when he's up here in town. We just got to get him on the podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But he showed me jiu-jitsu. The first person that ever taught me jiu-jitsu was Cowie, and we were overseas on our first deployment. And it was pretty cool. And then
another Hawaiian. Isaac.
Yeah, he's Hawaiian. Yeah. And then, which is crazy though, we come back from that first deployment, and I didn't train. I didn't find a gym because I just didn't make it a priority. I had other things in my life. Back then, I was really hardcore into riding street bikes and racing street bikes. That's what me and my buddy Derek did all the time. My old roommate Derek. I mean, you could leave our house
like cycling, like pedaling.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, if you're doing that at a high level, your quad game's on point. But no, we were racing street bikes where we're dragging our knees through the corners, in full racing kit. And so I was doing that all the time. And then after our deployment to Ramadi, Jocko opened his gym, and then I was working for him at Trade It, which is a training detachment, and we were training, and then I helped form up the new combatives programs that the SEAL teams had. So
hold on. Any of you guys that have been smashed on the mat by JP and you're like, man, what does this make sense? You're talking to the guy that helped recreate the combative program.
Which means nothing other than I've just been exposed to it for a while. You know what I mean? Like I've just been exposed to different form of jiu-jitsu. Like it was just like, it
means nothing when you're under him. Trust me.
And then, so I was training. That's when I always joke and say I got my white belt from Jocko, which is funny because nobody gets their white belt from anybody. But I say it as a joke. And I was training there under Jocko and Dean Lister and Elias. And it's crazy. Like if I would have just been consistent with my jiu-jitsu back then, I probably would be a black belt under Jocko by now, and then I would just be over under Formiga as a black belt. But everyone has their own path, and it just, again, goes back to a priority. If it's important to you, you'll make time for it. You know, people, you're not allowed to say, I don't have time.
No.
For anything in life. You have time. If it's a priority, you'll make the time. And it just wasn't, you know, for me. And then I was in Mississippi. I was doing MMA, so I would do no-gi jiu-jitsu. But again, it was only for jiu-jitsu defense to get myself into those good positions because my ego is involved. I wanted to be a ground and pound, you know, striker guy. It's like, bro, if I would have just been consistent with my jiu-jitsu, I probably would have been pretty decent back then.
You still were. You still were.
For no gi, I'll take that. Gi, I was like, what are you grabbing? What are you doing to me right now?
Still couldn't sweep him. Couldn't sweep him 10 years ago.
Get all nervous when people grip the gis with me. And then moved to Texas, was training at Peak. That's when Matt Waltman was coaching all the classes, and just loved it out there. And then because we're moving to the area, and then I had a business relationship with Formiga through Jocko Fuel because of Dedeco and Pete Roberts at Origin, switched over to Double Five and was training there. And then that's when things shifted in my ability to make jiu-jitsu a little bit more of a priority, and the love for jiu-jitsu got really deep when we came here to Texas. And you know, it's been awesome. I did a tournament as a white belt. Holy crap. The 2 times I've done tournaments, both of those, I've had bronchitis and pneumonia. When I was a white belt, I just realized that. Maybe I should never compete again.
You're just going to instantly get sick.
Or maybe you should just compete when you're healthy.
Yeah, that would be nice. That just clicked in my mind because when I was a white belt, I literally, the day of the tournament, I was coughing up blood in the shower, and I was like, and man was like, you probably shouldn't do this. I'm like, it's the day of. I've like committed to this, and did that. And I'm very thankful that I did that though, because Luke Barker, who's no longer with us anymore, he was able to, he was fighting cancer at the time.
Yeah.
And you know, he came to that tournament to be there, to be in my corner, and to like, you know, coach me at that. So I'm thankful I did that. He was able to, and I won gold. I went up 2 weight classes actually when I competed, and that was fun. And then, you know, I got my blue belt on that Tuesday, where it was like a 30-minute Shark Tank. You know, you get a new person every minute for 30 minutes straight, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. Come to find out, oh, this is why.
It wasn't just because you were tired.
Yeah, and then you know, didn't compete as a blue belt. Got my purple. I think it was a pity promotion, but it was good because I was able to like earn it, you know. And that was the thing. I changed my alarm on my phone for any time I set an alarm to get ready to go train. It says earn your purple belt, because I still feel like I don't deserve that purple belt. Yeah. There's times I'm confident, but there's times also I feel like, because then you'll go train, you know, and you just get hammered. And so I want to maintain the mindset of I don't deserve it yet.
Yeah, that's coming from humility, and I think it's a great mindset. But anyone that's trained with you would say you're a legitimate purple.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't ever want to think that myself.
Right.
In a manner where I'm like, oh, I'm good to go. Because for me personally, some people are good. They thrive off of that. Me personally, like that complacency creeps in quick, and I just can't. I've seen it. It literally, complacency has destroyed my life before, and I can't do it. You have to go to war with it every day, you know. And so then I competed as a purple belt. I lost. You know, it was like I was up. And then I was not. And that guy was so tough, man. Like your guy, he was so tough, so strong. Good dude, good human, man.
Yeah.
We talked afterwards, and his wife was there with his kid, and it was really cool to be able to like chat with the guy. I guess he listens to Jocko's podcast. Didn't really connect who I was until afterwards, and then hit one of his buddies with our buddy Colin, who came in Pursuit, who's now run 200-mile races, lost 100 pounds, and then ran a 100-mile race. Awesome. Dude's a stud. So for me, jiu-jitsu has just been like this up and down roller coaster, and that's what's awesome about jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is life. Like we've heard multiple people say it. It just reflects all the different aspects of life, and that's why I just love it. And this year, last 2 episodes again, we were talking about doing hard things, and we didn't really dive into like doing hard things. We just mentioned things that like we should be doing for a healthy lifestyle. But one of the things I really want to do this year is I really want to do a fight to win no-gi, and then I want to do some more IBJJF opens and compete gi and no gi for sure. I'll tell you one, like I've mentioned it to Formiga a few times. I think he thinks I'm joking. I really want to do some combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like, let me
I
do
wish there
some.
was a place to train that around here.
Let me do some no gi open hand strikes.
Oh,
I'll get slapped around. I'm
I
down.
want to do that so bad. So I guess like a goal for me this year.
Hey, that would wreck a lot of people's jiu-jitsu game.
That's why I want to do it, bro.
well, you got me and Ike signed up for training.
Yeah,
partners.
for real.
But you know,
We can
I
talk Steven into it.
I'll video. I'm smarter.
So for me, for jiu-jitsu, it's obviously been a crazy little like journey. It's been long, Yeah, but I will tell you, the doors that it's opened has been pretty awesome. The people I've been able to meet, and I'm super thankful for jiu-jitsu because it's a humbling sport that keeps you humble. Like stay humble or you'll get humbled. Jiu-jitsu keeps you humbled, and we're talking about the podcast, so I'm putting myself on blast for accountability, kind of like we talked about no drinking, and when I was Jocko's podcast, we talked about no drinking also. Is like I'm going to compete this year multiple times. I want to do a fight to win, no-gi. I would like somehow to figure out how to do a combat jiu-jitsu tournament, and I want to compete in some IBJJF opens as well, so that'd be cool.
So I'm obviously smart enough to not be the first one to raise my hand to do combat jiu-jitsu with JP, but as I'm looking over here to JP talking and Isaac's in between us, he's like, oh, I'll do that. I had a vision of being under Isaac's mount and these big bear paws just swinging, open hand slapping. Can you, bro?
Oh man, yeah, that's not fun. That cannot be fun. And then like you've seen these clips of these guys where someone's playing like Deli Heap or playing 50-50 from the bottom,
And they're just like, bam,
Yeah, try
knocks them out.
Try that deep half garbage with me, bro, when I can strike you.
That's why I don't want to go there anymore.
That's what I like. There's some professors or certain classes or even schools that we
I'm not
teach.
saying that people that do deep half are garbage. I'm just saying
I know.
that guard is garbage when you're getting striked.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
When I can throw hands.
And that's what I'm going to say
Factual.
is I like some of the classes or schools or professors that will emphasize do this technique for competition.
Yeah.
But do not do this in self-defense.
No.
Or if you're carrying a firearm, like you're concealed carrying or you're duty carrying, do not do this because you're giving your firearm to that guy or you're giving your face to this guy.
Yep.
So there's a huge distinction in
between sport jiu-jitsu and
combat.
Self-defense. Absolutely, you're right.
And
That's a good point.
that's where
Because your advantage don't mean crap.
No, we're not
also-
both double guard pulling on the street, homie.
No.
One day we trained that class. It was me and JP partnered, and we look at Formiga and we're like, we just sit down.
Yeah.
Rodrigo was teaching it because they were getting ready for masters.
And it was for a reason. Yeah,
And there's obviously a legitimate purpose behind it, but Formiga knows you and I both, and he's just like laughing. He's like,
Isaac and I were standing by y'all, and we were partnered up.
And
I remember it because
we
I
were
looked at Formiga and I said, and he goes, "Yeah, you'll never do this."
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And he was looking at the four of us. He's like, "Y'all are never gonna do this." And he's like, "But this can
Good
make
to
the
know.
difference in a high level match."
Yeah, it's definitely good to know.
And they clarified
For the sport
that
side.
this is for high level matches.
Yeah.
Again, high level jiu-jitsu match. JP's not involved in that. We're good. We all have that understanding.
Yeah, we understand. I won't be in a high-level
In
match.
case y'all are wondering, we are not the most we're not your typical jiu-jitsu guys. That's the best way to say it, which I love. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, but JP's 225, Josh is 220, 225, Isaac's like 275. I'm 255, 60 right now, depending on what I ate last night. Speaking of eating, well, no, let's go. We'll talk about eating in a minute. That's one of my favorite topics. But
Same.
while we're on this whole mindset changing of jiu-jitsu, I want to hear what Isaac has to say on that.
Oh, okay. Well, it was awesome because they were both talking. I was like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, my mind's changed that way. Yeah, my mind's changed that way.
It's even
So there's
changed
like a
in this
ton of-
conversation.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff. But I'd say, so I started training 2017. I did not have any kids yet. And I'd just been married only for like 6 months at this point. So I had tons of free time. I could train anytime. And I took full advantage of that when I was a white belt. I trained 7 times a week. I trained 6 days a week. And I trained twice on Saturday. And I could do it. I just couldn't get enough of it. And I would do that. I did that for months and months. Unless Then I get injured and then had to sit out for a little bit and went back. Then my son was born prematurely, and then that changed a lot of stuff, and I had to start learning how to prioritize that. And I didn't realize I was putting it first in a lot of aspects until my wife was like, hey, look, you cannot be gone like 5 days, 5 nights a week when I'm here with the baby. And so anyway, had to start prioritizing. Obviously I've changed. I have 3 kids now. I have to find where I can fit my training into the week that makes sense and prioritizes my family and the ministry, you know, just like you guys are all doing. But so I'll take a little detour from mindsets around training specifically and just kind of go with something that I've learned as a lesson that's applied to life from jiu-jitsu. I tell this story sometimes to people that are just starting out jiu-jitsu, but I used to, when I first started, and I was like real heavy and was big and strong. And I remember the second day I was training, there was this huge purple belt. I trained at Carlos Machado's for almost a year consistently there when I first started in 2017. And there was this huge purple belt. He was like 6'4", probably 260, and super knowledgeable, really good, really flexible. His cardio was awesome. And he takes me down, passes my guard, goes to north-south, and just smothers me. Like, he's just like laying his chest on my face. And I remember I was under there for like maybe 20 or 30 seconds. And I remember thinking, like, panicking, I can't breathe. And I tapped. And like, he gets up and he's kind of like smirking. And I'm like asking someone, did I do something wrong? They're like, dude, you don't tap to pressure. You don't tap to being smothered. Like, you know, so I'm like, I had to learn. But I felt like I was going to legitimately die. And so, fast forward 3 months, only been training 3 months. I'm rolling with the same guy again. He passes my guard. He gets me north-south. He's smothering me again. And I remember being under there, but I'm under there for like 3 minutes. And I have this like epiphany while I'm under there. I'm like, hey, I've been here before. And last time I was here, I only went 30 seconds and I thought I was going to die. I'm 3 minutes into this and I know I'm not going to die, and I might be able to make it to the end of the round. I might even be able to get out of here. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm slowly growing. The progress didn't seem like it was there because I wasn't seeing it. I just felt like I'm getting my butt whooped every single day. But there was the progress, technique-wise, whatever, mindset-wise. I was like, man, I'm becoming more mentally durable. I have more mental fortitude now that I didn't have before I started. And then I started realizing that actually translates over to so much stuff in my life. I mean, enduring financial hardship, like a season of financial hardship, enduring, an injury, making it back through an injury, or enduring a diet or something. You're like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to make it through this. And so that, I think it's resilience. That's what I would say.
And that goes back to a theme that we have and that our brothers at Summit have and stuff, and it's do hard things.
Yeah.
Like men should do hard things.
Yeah.
Humans should
do
hard things.
Yeah.
But especially men, because we're called to lead our families.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're called to lead our families and set that example, right?
And you have to be hardy and resilient. I mean, that's what,
And,
what this
you know,
builds.
and of course, like, yes, men should do hard things. And that's why I said humans should, because when I look at like what all 4 of our wives do to like allow us to do what we do, like you talk about cover and move, like, dude, our wives are gangsters.
Yeah,
like all 4 of our wives, like dealing with the kids and all the stuff at the house, and then helping us run our businesses and do everything else. It always drives me crazy when people are like Amanda came to an event with me recently. We're in San Diego, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, so what do you do for work?" Amanda's like, "Oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I take care of the wives, like the house and the kids." And the guy was like, "Oh, cool." And he didn't nothing wrong, right? And then somebody else said that, and then this other guy was like, "It's the hardest job out there." And I'm like, I'm glad somebody recognizes. And he goes, he wouldn't be able to do what he does if you weren't doing what she does. And I'm like, yes, 100%.
There's actually a study that just came out that my wife made sure to send me.
As she should.
That that shows that staying home with young kids is the stress levels there are like 10, depending on the situation, they found 10 to 50 times more stressful than corporate America job.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see that. Like, like, no question.
Yeah. How quickly do you see it when your wife gets sick? My wife had bronchitis for a week and a half or 10, 12 days a couple weeks ago. Everything in my world got rocked.
Dude.
It doesn't stop. The kids don't stop.
No.
And
right.
those are the times where you're like, oh, I remember.
My wife was down for the count like last week, and I went to I had to get my kids Zeke and Selah set up with like chocolate milk and their morning routine. Safina's awake. I go to get her out of the bassinet. I pick her up. She's wet by her shoulders, and I'm like,
That's not right.
and it doesn't. It was not pee. So I'm like holding her. I'm like, she's completely from like shoulders to her knees covered, and I'm like, how do I do this? How do I gotta set her down. I gotta take the clothes off somehow. Where am I gonna put her down? I gotta take
Straight to
her
the bathtub,
bath.
bro.
Dude, clothes and everything. Like take her there, undo it, and it was just like I'm like wow. And then the other kids are calling me, and I'm like, oh my, this is like a Tuesday for Kim.
Yeah, it's like a normal Tuesday.
I'm like ready to call 911 over here.
Yeah, I'm like, can you help? How do you do this with no help when I'm gone? And she's like, yeah, good
Remember,
question.
every 5 seconds, don't go in there and bother her either.
Yeah.
But also sit down.
Yeah, it's wild. Man.
So what else on? Was there anything else to your training? How your mindset's changed?
No, I would say the biggest takeaway for me, the thing that I've taken from training has been resilience in other areas of my life, and just learning like it's taught me you're not gonna die. Things might be hard, things might be difficult. You don't have to tap. You will find a way out or find a way to survive the round. And when you come out the other end, you're gonna learn. You have learned something from it, and you've learned that you can make it through. So
yeah.
I like where you can tie that later. I know Steven's going to talk and then Josh is going to share his verse, but what you just said, just think how that applies to our spiritual journey and walk with the Lord.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, anyways,
so
Steven,
good.
what you got, bud?
Oh man, I'm the most juniored guy here. I'm the blue belch of the group. Blue belch. I've got 3 years on the mats. First year was with JP over at Peak, and awesome dudes at that gym. I was in a busy season of my life, but that's where I truly like learned to love jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah.
I was getting in about 2 sessions a week.
Yeah.
It was a super busy season, brand new, young kids. I'm trying to think back. That was 28. Yeah, so we had a 2.5-year-old, and Amanda, I think when I started, Amanda was like super pregnant with Addison. And then we had, the baby, so now we got 2 young kids, and so I'm training and business owner, right in the grind of all that and trying to make it happen. And so I was only able to get out there a couple times a week. Zach Taylor, who we all train with, was teaching the beginners class, and which was a fun time. He was a blue belt at the time, and I didn't even realize. I think he was like a newer blue belt then. It was 2018. Yeah. He was like a newer blue belt, and it
levels to that too.
Well, bro, I had
You started training in 2019.
2019.
It was December of 18 when you started, but you're actually training in 2019.
Exactly. All I know is I saw some Instagram photos from 2018, so that's exactly right. It was around the holidays.
Yeah.
And Zach is like, bro, his ability to teach like fundamentals at an early blue belt was mind blowing.
Well, he was also beating purples, browns, and some blacks as a new blue belt. So it's like what?
That dude's a freak. But so I got to fall in love with jiu-jitsu, start to learn jiu-jitsu. But there's also what I learned was like, because I was doing a lot of the advanced classes as well. I didn't have enough time to train. Like I was only training about twice a week. I needed to be training more because I just needed to catch up and learn, what do all these, like, if y'all can relate back to when you first start training, like, what does half guard have to do with anything? What does this have to do? So I was trying to figure it all out. But I learned a lot of lessons. Similar to what Isaac shared, bro, there's one time after class, I was smoked. And JP and I had been texting before class, like, hey, like, let's roll tonight. I look over and I'm like, man, we didn't get a roll. You want to roll? And he's like, dude, I am so tired. He's like, but you asked, so the answer is yes.
I don't say no.
Every time.
That's my rule.
It was a big mistake because I go out there and I was exhausted. And JP, I don't know, he just gets on top of me. And like, especially when you're new white belt, and you don't know how to control your breathing yet, especially like when you get into the exhaustion phase, that's when it hurts, because like it's hard to learn to control your breathing when you're exhausted. Yep. So JP gets on me and he ends up in mount and he just hips to the floor, right? And I can't breathe and I start wigging. And so I start doing everything. I give him an arm so he'd armbar me. I give him my other arm. I'm trying to let him have an Americana. I end up rolling, giving him my neck and my back, like going to the worst position, and he won't kill me.
Please tap me so I can reset.
He won't mercy kill me. Yeah. I just remember he ended up getting he took it to the point of he got my jacket pulled up and over my face. So not only I was claustrophobic before, maybe I still am outside of jiu-jitsu, but I think jiu-jitsu's helped with that. But I was like a claustrophobic person. I'm exhausted, smoked. JP is smothering me. It felt like it'd been a 50-minute round. In reality, it's probably 2 minutes at that time. And he gets my jacket over my face, and I am freaking to the point where I literally said to myself, I was full panic, like 1,000,000% panic. And I said, screw everything jiu-jitsu. I am going to stand up and sprint off the mat. And here's the sad part is I couldn't do it.
Just stand up.
It was like, I remember I had this vision in my head. It's like JP was riding a bull. He would, no matter what. And finally, I think I actually told you to stop. And if I remember right, and you did. And I remember I had to take my jacket off, my belt off. Like I had to like strip down and calm down. And then JP's like, and comes over to me. He gives me about 2 minutes. And he's like, and now we just learned our first lesson. And then he's like, come back over here. And he's like, all right, in mount. You're freaking out. Here's what you need to do. And he starts walking me through it, right? And that was the turning point for me in learning to like control myself. But I had to be pushed to like a spaz moment. Yeah. But probably the best thing for me was that it was my best friend because he was unwilling to mercy kill me. Probably anyone else would have mercy killed me sooner, like he wouldn't choke me out or just tap me. But it pushed me to that point. But so anyways, fast forward, COVID closed the gym down, and then I was able to, I didn't train for a while because of that. And then when you went over to Double Five, JP, you're like, bro, Steven, you got to get back on the mats. Come with me. Like the second week, you were just cross training at that point. Yeah. And so I went out there, and I'll never forget. We walked in the gym, and Rodrigo was like teaching a private, laying on his side, and JP's like, "Hey, I want you to meet my best friend Steven." And Rodrigo's like in his Brazilian accent. He's like, "Brother, welcome. You're home." And literally, I don't know what it was, but y'all know, we all like tease with Rodrigo, but he's very like charismatic. Yeah. He's very good with people. And like when he said that, I was like, sign me up. Yeah. I don't know what it was because I'm not easily swayed by stuff like that, but it was like, it just felt so authentic. He's like, brother, like you're home. And I was like, okay, I'm home. Yeah. And I never left the gym. I had Brody in there. That was a Friday. Brody did his, at 4.5 years old, did his first class that following Tuesday. He's really never, like he's been super consistent for over 2 years now. All his classes from Formiga and Rodrigo. It's been incredible. Yeah. But what I noticed was when I was at peak, previously, incredible gym, incredible practitioners, but a lot of their big dudes in the advanced class wanted to roll with me. And I realized like, bro, like I've got to I need to close the gap. And so when I went to Double Five, I started doing, we trained for a little bit. I got my feet back under me. I really felt like I was starting over, but I had the benefit of my year of experience previously, right, from 2019. But with that, what I did was, I immersed myself in privates. And so I did, like, Jeremy Jones was my first private partner. We worked for about a year, and then Josh and I have been working for a while together now, but with Rodrigo, right? Rodrigo Lopez. And I remember my first year at Double Five, I know it was over 40 private lessons. And like, I didn't miss one of the noon gi classes. So I was getting 4 sessions a weekend, no matter what. And it was a stretch, bro. And I was getting 4 sessions a weekend, and I was getting Brody up there twice a week. And it was a huge sacrifice. Yeah. But that, for me, I needed that year, in these 2 years, but I needed that year to learn jiu-jitsu and to I don't know, just try to keep up. But like those private lessons, it was also a financial sacrifice. But what I did was I found other ways to make extra money to where I was able to tell my wife, hey, I've got these little things I'm doing, and like it's paying for this. And so she was good with it. But that was the game changer for me, bro, was those lessons. And I was videoing those lessons. So you were about to say that, JP?
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah. So Rodrigo allowed me to video those lessons and for myself, and I would video them. And then every morning when I would drink my coffee first thing in the morning, I would watch back my lesson. And like 3, 4, 5 times that week. And that is what helped me learn the position, like, because y'all know how it is, like, we learn something and then we do it and then we go on about our week and we forget, especially when you're learning, you forget it. And so
it's just too much information.
Yeah, that's right. And so for me, I had to figure out, I wanted to catch up, and I didn't I didn't like not being able to at least be competitive, right? At least be able to survive or something. And so which I'm not suggesting that in that gym I can, but
you can.
Well,
and dominate when you want.
There's levels, but with that, anyways, I think that was the turning point for me, man. Like, it was kind of like Isaac said, like, I had to learn how to survive the pressure, and then, but it was like, I just realized, like, for me, it was, I needed to video my lessons, I needed to take consistent lessons, watch them back, and then one of the things that Rodrigo's like, bro, he is a professional, so we would do reviews every private, like, we'd started off with review, but here's the key, because of my discipline and watching those lessons back, and Jeremy's such a good partner and Josh is such a good partner now, that I was actually, when we would do the review, I was like 2 steps ahead. So our review would be super fast, super effective, and it was really good for me because I was putting in that prep work. And so that year really was like what helped me get to where I am, which is still nowhere, but better than where I was
somewhere. It's
better than
somewhere.
where I was 3 years ago when I hadn't, 3 years mat time ago.
I think I know we want to talk about diet and we can get on another one. I think like what we're all talking about and what you just talked about is a good transition into the word, because you can read the Bible and it's like going to a jiu-jitsu class. You can go to a jiu-jitsu class and then you're going to lose that information. Because I know I've gone to a lot of jiu-jitsu classes where that information's gone. But when you truly like immerse yourself into jiu-jitsu, like you said, and you're sacrificing to your financially to pay for some privates, and you're watching the video and you're reviewing it and you're doing all these things, like you're going to get better. And I know one thing that I failed to do for a long time was truly immerse myself into the word. And to be honest, if we're being transparent, which I sometimes maybe I'm a little too transparent on podcasts, but I don't care, because I think that's, we have this platform and I think that's okay if you're comfortable with being that transparent. Like, I've been struggling being consistently immersed into the word, to be honest. I have. And, it's one of the things I was like really trying to get back into. And as you're talking about immersing yourself is just into jiu-jitsu, like that's what we all did. It was to get better. We had to make those sacrifices. And I think there's a lot of people out there that fail to have the discipline, like you guys were talking about, of like, hey, you know what? I'm going to immerse myself into the word. Like, yeah, you can spend 15, 20 minutes reading the Bible, but it's like I talked about before with like my pastor Tyron, like gave me that example. And so I would like for us to be able to like kind of dive into like what you're going to share, Josh. And then from there, let's pull the thread on that verse and really kind of try to immerse ourselves into that.
Let's get it. Hey, one thing I will say to put a bow on that I just thought of as you're saying that is like, one thing when I did get my blue belt, bro, I knew I had earned it. I didn't feel deserving necessarily, but I knew I had put the work in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's a good feeling. And that's the way we want to be as we lead our families, like to pull that thread into back to this word that we're about to go into. Like, I mean, when we're leading our families and communities and stuff, we want to know we've put the work in on the spiritual side, just like a lot of us do on the jiu-jitsu side or the physical side.
Yeah.
Bro, could you imagine? So how many hours of jiu-jitsu were you doing a week? 4, close to 6?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing 4 sessions, and y'all know those noon classes at Double Five, they bleed out for anyone. Like, they stay late for anyone that can stay, and I was getting there early and warming up and drilling. So, I mean, let's just say an hour and a half for a session is conservative, times 4.
Yeah, so 6.
Plus then, let's say 30, 20, let's say, to speak real conservative, say 20 minutes a day of film review, 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, 7-8 hours a week, maybe of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Plus, I was driving my son to jiu-jitsu twice a week, and if you don't think I wouldn't learn something from those watching Formiga teach the kids class,
For sure.
I'm just thinking like time-wise, right?
Yeah,
So you're looking about
6 to 10 hours a week.
Yeah. How often do we spend? I mean, I know you guys do, but most people, and like, can you imagine spending 10 hours a week in the Word?
I can tell you I do not spend 10 hours a week in the Word right now.
I would say
It's not that many for me.
I didn't used to until about a year ago.
I know you do.
And so when you're talking about
We've
like
talked, yeah.
time with Jesus, like I just call it time with the Lord, but like my prayer time, my scripture, my and then my worship and stuff, it's probably 6 to 10 hours a week now for the last year plus, but it's never been before. And as we've shared in the past, like the turning point for me was my pursuit, right? And it wasn't like it was an overnight switch, but it was a journey since then. It's been a continual journey, and it will continue to be a journey, which is why it's called pursuit, because it is a pursuit, right? You're pursuing the Lord. Right. But I think it's been a game changer. And like for me, JP, I had to go through pursuit to get to the point to where it's like, dude, I need like we need jiu-jitsu. Like we know when we don't train, I need those hours with the Lord and with the Bible. Whereas before it was like, okay, I need to like check this box and read my one chapter, or if I'm being really hardcore, read my 5 chapters. Like, dude, I laid it all out there. In reality, that's nothing. And so so I needed that event, that pursuit event, to really get set on that and just like craving that relationship with Jesus. And that's what it is. Like if there's something I can do that's going to take me closer to Jesus, that's what I'm all about. I'm not about religion or Christianity or all the other stuff that's tied up in like what church is supposed to look like. I like church and all that stuff, but I'm just saying, like, it's, for me, it's just a pursuit of like, I want to know more about my Savior. Like, how do I get closer to Jesus? So anyways.
Well, yeah, that ties in. I've got one thing to add on that, and I'm going to tie it right in, but it's the same discipline. I sat right here and said I haven't made it a priority to get as much jiu-jitsu as I want to. It's the same thing. It's even easier because your relationship with Jesus and your time alone with him can be anywhere. Like jiu-jitsu, at least there's that one aspect of I have to drive somewhere. So if I'm sitting here saying like I have no excuses, I can't say I don't have time, I just haven't prioritized it. How much more is that the same thing of I haven't picked my Bible up off of my nightstand and done it? There's probably better times of the day to do it, but you know what? Even if it's at the end of the day, like I don't recommend going all day without it, but I'm going to tell you, if you've gone all day without it, that's no reason to wait till the next day.
Yeah, that's right.
So is it a priority or not? You're only going to make that relationship better by training it more, by cultivating it more.
To that, I don't mean to keep interjecting, but you just said this. I want to interject one more thing, with your permission.
Yeah.
So I have some good friends that I played middle school football with, and my wife and I've gone to church with them. We're really close to them, David and Lindley Dickens. And y'all know my cousin Tyler Little. Yeah. David is similar to Tyler from the perspective of just like tried and true, like just steady. Like you know exactly what you're going to get. Well, my wife was helping his wife with something earlier this week, Lindley, and she told Amanda that David, in like the 12 years they've been together, he's never one day in 12 years missed his time with the Lord. So if he has to be somewhere if he has to wake up at 3:30 to be somewhere, he'll just set his alarm for 2:30 a.m. to spend an hour minimum. 12 years, never missed a day. And he's also like that tried, true, silent, like quiet, like he doesn't talk about that. So I never knew that until his wife told my wife. But I'm like, okay, I felt like I've been doing good lately, like this last year or two in my life. Okay, new goal. Like target just moved. I want to be 12 years down the road and be able to say, and I'm going to fail. I'll just tell you right now. I don't know if I have, I'm going to try, but I don't know, bro. But like, that's just one of my buddies that I'm like, no wonder too. Like when I see the fruit in his life, it makes sense. So you're talking about it. Like when we see a jiu-jitsu practitioner that is like a Formiga, where you're like, yeah, I know what you do though. And what you've done for the last 20 years. Well, so I look at David and like this dude's life is squared away. And I'm like, well, no wonder, bro.
Right.
And so anyways.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. It's the funny thing about it is this verse has been on my mind not by coincidence, I'm sure. Since the last pursuit, it wasn't the one I was on, but we all served on. Well, JP wasn't there, but the three of us, Ike, Steven, and I served on, and it's one I presented to the group. And there's a part of it that is sticking out to me more than the rest, but actually our conversation has taken it. We're just going to open it up and pull the thread. We can go two ways on this, so I'm going to bring both up. But so I use the King James Version. There's all different versions. This one, I know sometimes there's some Old English in King James, but I don't think you're going to struggle with this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. Galatians 5:13 and 14. For brethren, you have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So, really what I had on my mind that's really been sticking out to me lately is that by love, serve one another. And I think it's so easy to get into our, I'm holding up quote marks, Christian duties and checking boxes and stuff. And sometimes we can do that even when we're still those quote marks serving other people. But what's our heart telling us and why we're serving them? And that's kind of the focus I had on it. But with our conversation, it kind of brings it back to that first part of that. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't go to church or maybe don't have a relationship have probably been burned, or even not burned, seen Christians that don't live by this. So we're talking about relationships. Well, a lot of times Christians are people. So like, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm the worst Christian. And that's just me talking about myself. But just because a Christian has liberty, it's a terrible excuse for the flesh to not do the things you're supposed to beyond that with the right attitude. So I think in kind of what we're talking about is, I could be a Christian and tell everybody I'm a Christian, and then behind the scenes not be having any time alone with God, not doing any kind of things to make myself better, not opening my heart to the things that I need to, not focusing on the things I need to. And it's real easy to just detach in a negative way. Detachment's a great superpower, but you can also detach and be like, well, I'm a Christian, I'm good. And I think that's kind of what this shifted to for me is like, hey, you're a Christian and you have liberty and you have freedom now. That doesn't mean the work is done. And so you really have to dig into that, and there's things we have to do. So we're supposed to, in love, serve one another. I'm not supposed to just check boxes. I'm not supposed to go down it. So there's actually more actions that have to be committed with that freedom. And I think that's just kind of where it led me to bring that topic about. We can pull that thread on that, but it ties in with jiu-jitsu. You got your blue belt. You got your freedom, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't stop there. Yeah. You got saved. It doesn't mean we're not going to spend time in the Word. You got to keep going. You got to keep doing the hard things. All these recurring themes, all to me, tie into this scripture. And that's just kind of where it went for me. I think the reason by love serve one another, when I went on my pursuit, I was on P5. Me and Ike were on it together. Steven and JP were on the serve team. This started sticking out to me then, even before I ever had to present it, because I went on that pursuit with not really knowing what I was looking for, but one of the things I wanted to soften my heart. I know I can be stern, especially with the ones I love, but I think as my heart softened and opened, I started seeing like I need to have not only a soft heart, but a servant's heart. So like, as a Christian, like it's real easy. If any one of these guys called me for something, yeah, no problem, no factor. I'm going to go take care of that. But I think we need to have more of that servant heart in all of our actions and what we're doing. And that
goes back to, we just have to be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
He set the example.
Yeah, exactly. And it clearly says, love thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, if we're taking care of ourselves, we should take care of our neighbor. That ties in.
It's against our nature.
100% against our nature, which circles back to why do we keep doing the things we do? sometimes, is it a hard thing to have a relationship with Jesus? I think a lot of times, yes. Now, sometimes it's factors that we've put in on our own. Again, your buddy, he had to be up at 4:30. It's hard to get up at 3:30 and spend an hour in the Word, but it's why you do it. You're still cultivating it. So,
And so, like what you just said, it's against our nature. It's like, well, it's against our sin nature. But then, if of course, like going back to the other verse we were talking about last time, if you set your mind on the things of the Spirit, you're walking in that. You're walking in the power of the Spirit, and it's a lot easier because it's not in your own strength. You're asking God for the strength to do these things. You're like, Lord, I'm not disciplined on my own, but I know that self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. Like, help me to exercise this fruit of the Spirit and be consistent. I can't do it on my own, but I can do it with you.
right.
But I think that's
So good.
that was a good point.
It just it reminds me of what we talked about before of like denying the flesh, like, and when you're saying like our sinful natures is like, and by love serve one another. It's awesome. You read that. I underlined by love serve one another, and then you said the thing that sticks out to me is by love serve. I'm like, when you're reading that, to me, like that's an act of worship.
Yeah.
Right. It's an act of worship to God, which is one of our weapons.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
That I explained to us before. So I love that verse, and I love what you're talking about. And man, it's just a good reminder. It's so hard, and it goes. I look at it like I don't try. Like for the most part, I view everything in life through like this leadership lens because of what I do at Echelon Front, and not taking away from a biblical standpoint, because everything that we teach at Echelon Front is based in the Bible, which is cool that Jocko and Leif talk about that. Like, hey, these are biblical principles. So I am geared towards looking at these from leadership, like a point of view, and just being a better Christian man and a better leader of my family. And it's just reminding myself that I have to do a better job to serve the people around me, and realize that we're always being watched. And
Right.
it's like, who are we setting the example for? Like, we talked about that dad losing his temper, or maybe it was a dad, I don't know, that man losing his temper. He was setting the example for somebody there. Yeah. Somebody watching goes, oh, you know what? Like, maybe it's some white belt, right? And they're like, oh, that's what I do when I lose?
That was the last episode, right?
One of them. Yeah, one of them that we've done. I don't remember. I think it was one of the last ones when we were talking about. I believe so. But, just like setting the example. Like, that's the thing I have to remind myself is like, hey, I am setting an example for my kids, for my wife, and for the people around me. How I treat somebody. That's one of the things I hate is when I'm traveling, and I travel a lot, is when somebody treats a gate agent like trash. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they have nothing to do with this flight being delayed, and you think yelling and degrading them and treating them rude is going to help at all? No, it does nothing, but it shows their character. And it's like, if they're doing these things out in public, like, what are they doing at home with their spouse or their kids? And it's just like, man, like, we have the ability to worship God by loving people, by treating people around us good, because guess what? They were made in His image as well. Right. And it's like all the times that I treated my wife unfairly and I wasn't respecting her in our marriage by the words that I spoke to her or the way that I treated her, I was treating God's daughter with dishonor.
Wow.
And
you definitely weren't serving in love.
No.
Right?
Not even close.
Well, and so the word says that from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So like when you treat a gate agent badly, it's because of what is inside. It's not like you're not full of life and the word of God, and then what bubbles out is this animosity and horrible attitude towards people.
Those don't line up.
No, they don't. So the secret is to fill your heart with the word, and that's what comes out naturally.
And that's what I was saying, like going back to my buddy David, I referenced 12 years of every single day in the word and having time with the Lord. Well, when you start your morning that way off, you're full every day. Yep. But you go to bed and you're empty, but the reason he doesn't explode on people, because this dude is like tried and true, bro. Well, I just learned one of his secrets the other day. Right?
Yeah, right.
And I'm also willing to bet that that hour that he spends with the Lord isn't the only time he's spending with the Lord. He's probably listening to praise and worship throughout the day. He's probably praying when he has that downtime. And it's just like we've touched this multiple angles, which is really cool. It's about, hey, what are you consuming? What are you putting into your life? What are you putting into your heart so that can come out and to serve others. Dude, Josh, I love this verse, man. That was good.
This is big. Hey, listen, guys, a couple things. So you've heard us reference Pursuit a couple times. We've talked about it on some of our first episodes. That is an event. It's a freedom ministry. It's an incredible ministry. They do men's pursuits and they do women's pursuits. 2 separate events. They happen multiple times a year. We serve on a handful of those throughout the year, and we would love for you to join one with us if you want to check that out, man. You want to go get alone with the Lord, kind of experience some of the stuff we've experienced, a lot of our jiu-jitsu brothers have, that's been impactful for us. That's through Walking in Truth Ministries. They're kind of our sending ministry, so to speak, and they've really blessed us, and we walk in unity and brotherhood with that group of men, that organization, and we just appreciate them, and we always want to give back to those guys. But I can tell you this, it's a personal guarantee. If you'll go to Pursuit, it's a long weekend, and you will sell out to the process, right? So just show up, put in the work. It will be the best investment of your time that you'll make in your whole life.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. There's one coming up quick. Not sure when you guys are listening to this, but there's one coming up in April. I believe it's Thursday, April, if I'm visualizing my calendar correctly. That would be Thursday the 27th, Friday the 28th, Saturday the 29th, and Sunday the 30th. I think that's coming up.
Yep. You come back on Sunday Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, arrive on Thursday, come back on Sunday.
Message us on the Instagram channel. That's the other thing. Make sure to plug in and follow us there. That's where you're going to get all of our content. All of our communication is through at Instagram on Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. That's Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA over there. With that being said, we love Walking in Truth and our brothers and sisters over there. We love our sponsorship through Total Fitness Kickboxing. We appreciate y'all again for allowing us to do this episode. Yeah. And go to Origin Maine and use JJJ for that 10% discount. JJJ 1010 for the Jocko Fuel discount. You're supporting the podcast by doing that. You're supporting the ministry, and you're supporting American agriculture and workers. With that being said, we appreciate each and every one of you listening in today. If you like it, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Give us a share on your social media, and we'll see you next time. This has been Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode 004.
And go train.